First place we're going to start, we want to go up to File, New, and we're going to go ahead and open up an assembly. So standard IM. Click that, hit Create. Next step here, we go up to Place, and we want to find your car wherever it is, so you can drop down the menu and search for it wherever you have it. Mine opens up readily. So grab the car, click on the car, click once, and now if I can hover it around, I can drop a bunch of these cars in here. I don't want more than one, so I escape out of that. Now the car can move around, but we don't want it to move around. So go ahead and right-click on the car and hit Grounded. If I hover over the car, you'll see it's got a push pin, and if I come over here on the browser, you'll see there's a push pin there as well. That means it's grounded. Now, I can't move it around anymore. That's what we want. Next step, go ahead and place a couple axles, hit Escape, go up to Place, a couple of your wheels, and hit Escape. At this point, you're just about ready to go and just about ready to start assembling. I'd like you to develop the habit of coming over to your browser menu and dropping down these part files. This way, not only can you see the origin file, but you also can see any constraints that you've placed upon these parts. The first step here in actually assembling this is taking this axle and putting it into the wheel well down here. In order to make sure I click on the correct thing, I want to open up the origin and make my Z-axis visible. So right-click and hit Visibility. Since it's the same part, both of them now will have the Z-axis present. If I go up to Constraint and make sure it's on the mate, I'm going to go ahead and grab or click on that. I'm going to click on that Z-axis. I'm going to come down here, find that. You'll see it creates a white line and click on that. You should hear a cowbell or a weird sound and hit OK. Now if we check our work, you'll be able to see here is the axle. It translates on that Z-axis. And if I go over here and make visible my YZ plane, you can see it also rotates on that axis. All right, so we're in a pretty good place now. Next thing we want to do is we want to make sure these are lined up. The top of that with the side of the car. So if you hop on up here to Constraint, we're going to go ahead and mate it again. But this time we're going to mate with the flush clicked on. So click flush and go to the top of the axle and the side of the car. Hit OK. The only difference again this time was we mated the top of this with the top of that, but we clicked on that flush. So this now is even with the top of the car. So let's check our motion here, and you'll see it rotates. It no longer translates on that Z-axis. If we go over to our browser, you'll see we have two different constraints that we've placed on that. I think we're in pretty good shape there. We've constrained it pretty well. Now the wheel needs to go ahead and get mated to the axle. Going to go over here to the wheel, drop down the origin, and make sure that I've got this Z-axis on. And there it is. Okay, so we're ready to go. Constraint, mate, grab that Z-axis or click that Z-axis and click this Z-axis, and it'll line up nicely for you. Again, that was just Z-axis to Z-axis, very similar to what we did with the axle at the start. Hit OK. Check your movement at this point in time. Notice it will stay or translate on my Z-axis, and it actually spins around. That's the movement we want. If it's doing anything funky or weird on there, you've probably made it a plane to an axis or something weird like that. So this is the only motion that should be happening right now. Now we want to go ahead and line it up inside the wheel well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mate the very bottom. Notice I'm zooming in so I can see the very bottom of the wheel with the very bottom of the wheel well. I don't like that it's flush there. I don't like that it's hitting that. So I'm going to go ahead and offset it. Before I hit OK, I'm going to offset it at 0.04. How I know that number is because I've played with this enough and worked with this enough to know that's about as far I want it offset. So you might need to work with your number just a little bit. Hit OK. Now let's check the movement. Where should we be with this? So almost done. The wheel spins, the axle spins. They do not slide on that z-axis anymore. We're almost done. I want the wheel and the axle to spin together though. That's just a simple constraint. It's a mate constraint, and I make sure that I mate this plane, the YZ plane, and make sure you see it, hover over it till you see it on there, with this plane. You hear the click? Now let's check our movement. You'll see it spin. Looks good. That's what we want. Now, to troubleshoot on the other side of things, you might get in a situation that I'll say, okay, I got it, not a problem. And you hop over here, you hit constrain, and you're going to go to this axis, and you go to that axis, and then all of a sudden that wheel hops on there the wrong way. Best way to solve that problem, cancel out of that, click on the part, and then right-click down here where it says free move and free rotate. Click free rotate, orient this the correct way, whichever way you want it to be, and then once you have that oriented the correct way, then you can come back and you can constrain and it'll fit on there facing the correct way.